In the fast-moving world of Turkish celebrity rumor cycles, there are whispers, there are waves, and then there are tremors that seem to shake an entire ecosystem without a single official statement ever being made. Over the last week, one such tremor began circulating quietly through agency corridors, whispered by those who always know more than they should. Gökberk Yıldırım allegedly told close confidants that Yağmur Yüksel is still emotionally attached to Barış and therefore refuses to see him. It is not a declaration, not a complaint, not even a confession. It is an observation, a sigh disguised as information, a soft admission said to have carried the weight of someone who realizes he walked into a story that was already written long before his name ever appeared in the margins. And this is what makes the rumor so magnetic. It does not paint Gawkberg as jealous. It does not frame Yagmmer as calculating. It suggests something far more complicated and, in a way, far more human, emotional loyalty that refuses to dissolve even after life moved in another direction. Those who have spent years around the industry know that the most intense attachments do not always announce themselves loudly. Sometimes they live in the quiet persistence of memory. Sometimes they hide behind silence, behind distance, behind the facade of new chapters built with effort, not passion. And sometimes, long after everyone assumes a story has died, the truth resurfaces in the simplest possible way. Someone else realizes they are standing in a place already occupied by a ghost. People who observed Gawkberg's demeanor in recent weeks describe him as composed, but reflective. He has not withdrawn, he has not sulked, he has not chased attention. Instead, he seems to have stepped back, as if he recognized that some battles are not fought in the present, because their outcome was sealed in the past. He did not enter this rumor with anger. He entered it with resignation. And resignation, in this context, can be more devastating than outrage. Because outrage wants to fight. Resignation understands there is nothing to fight for. Observers inside the industry say this situation did not emerge from a dramatic confrontation or emotional breakdown. It was a slow realization, a recognition of shadows, a quiet moment in which someone saw that what he hoped to build stood beside what she could not forget. The industry is notorious for quick romances and quick endings, for connections built on press tours, for sparks that fade as soon as camera lights are turned off. But every so often, there is a story that does not collapse. It simply pauses. It waits. It exists in a suspended state, unresolved and unburied. And those stories are the ones that cause the most disruption when a new chapter tries to begin. Those close to Yagmmer say she has not made dramatic proclamations or bold moves. Instead, she continues with her work, her quiet routines, her careful boundaries. She has lived with attention long enough to understand that silence protects more than explanations ever could. Yet her silence does not feel neutral. It feels like an unspoken truth she refuses to articulate, not because she is uncertain, but because saying it aloud would trap her in a narrative she has been trying to move beyond for years. Industry insiders describe her as composed but defensive of her peace. She does not entertain emotional distractions. She does not entertain speculation. But the very fact that she will not deny the possibility of lingering feelings leaves space for interpretation. And in this business, space for interpretation is fuel. Fans build meaning in the gaps. PR teams try to seal them. Journalists live between them. And the public eats it all with fascination, wanting not scandal, but romance, longing, and unresolved tension. Those same insiders note that Yagmmer's emotional life has always been the subject of quiet fascination, not loud scandal. She is not the person who publicly breaks hearts or begs for sympathy. Instead, she gives nothing. And in giving nothing, she gives mystery. Her restraint is not stone. It is velvet. It softens everything, yet hides everything at the same time. And in that elegant restraint, the audience senses something deeper, a tenderness she has not yet redirected elsewhere. Meanwhile, Barış remains an unavoidable presence in this story, not because he has done anything, but because emotional gravity works without effort. The name that repeats in rumors, the face that enters conversation uninvited, the memory that resurfaces even in silence, that is the mark of a bond that reality could not dissolve, even as life demanded it be set aside. Friends say Barış lives fully in his chosen path, yet occasionally carries a stillness that reveals the cost of emotional history no one ever fully resolves. He does not speak about the past. He does not revisit it. But silence has its own language, and those who have been watching long enough know how to read it. This is not a story of betrayal. It is not a love triangle. It is the much rarer story of someone trying to love someone who is still healing from something that never received a proper ending. And that is a battlefield where no one wins. Not because anyone is at fault, but because time does not erase emotions that were never allowed closure. Social media, of course, has begun dissecting this rumor quietly. Fans who always believed in the original connection feel vindicated. Others argue that everyone deserves to move on without being tethered to old affections. Many simply recognize the complexity and sigh, having lived their own versions of loving someone who is not yet done loving someone else. Agents are cautious. Stylists speak in codes. Production teams shrug with an air of inevitability. Nobody condemns. Nobody dismisses. Because everyone understands what this rumor truly says beneath its surface, some hearts do not return to neutrality. They remain magnetized to what once felt like home, even when that home is no longer accessible. For Gawkberg, stepping aside, if that is indeed what he has chosen, does not read as defeat. It reads as emotional maturity. He saw a story he could not interrupt, and rather than force himself into its pages, he closed the book quietly and walked away. That kind of dignity is rare in a field where ego is currency. And that is why the rumor spread, not as gossip, but as recognition. And so, the narrative continues to hover, not explosive, but haunting. A reminder that the strongest ties are not always the ones that succeed. Sometimes they are the ones that never died. And sometimes the most powerful love stories are the ones that never learned how to end, and therefore never allowed anything else to fully begin. In the end, this is not scandal. It is not drama. It is the quiet truth of emotional timing. And timing, more than love, decides everything. Some hearts move on. Some hearts wait. And some hearts simply remain where they once belonged, long after everyone else has moved the story forward.